Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news that others refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for July the 10th in the year of our Lord, 2025. This is our one of two. The goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, to use the incredible checks and balances put in place by the Founding Fathers in the supreme law of the land to restore the Republic, ladies and gentlemen. It is the peaceful solution at our fingertips. We believe in restoration, not revolution. We reject revolution. Of course, unless it's the Jesus revolution, then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. Welcome to the broadcast. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. Well, I've got good news. Sam Bushman, yes, that's me, named one of America's top 100 radio talk show hosts in the nation. Talkers.com. Talkers Magazine put that together. And Talkers Magazine is a very interesting magazine. It's primarily a trade magazine for radio people. But over the years, it's become kind of a new media, I don't know what you call it, but a new media company, because it deals with a lot more than just radio now. Like radio, the term has been kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of, well, what's your cell phone? You hardly use it for a phone, right? It's kind of like that. Radio, it's like, what is radio? Is it only AM and FM or shortwave? No, internet. I don't like the term audio very well because audio doesn't really do it justice. It's radio. It's personality driven. It's unique. Okay, talk radio. It's called Talkers Magazine because it's primarily talk. Talk is usually conversational. Talk is narration. Talk. Anyway, the whole point is the company Talkers has been around for a long time. Talkers.com, and they have done a lot of things in the media. They bring a lot of media people together. It's a trade magazine to let you know who gets hired, who gets fired, who moves here, who's there, who jumps on the scene, who leaves the scene, how well companies are doing, statistics about radio and about listenership and about advertising and about all kind of things. So it's kind of a trade magazine for a lot of us radio people, but it's also a great place for people to go to keep up on what's happening in radio too. Like there's a lot of cool stories. For example, hey, Don Trump Jr. joins the Salem Radio Network. See, you hear things like that, right? And so it's a cool magazine. And they have been in my opinion, a leader in the industry for literally 35 years or more. And they've been doing the Heavy 100 talk show host list for like 29 years, I think. And the first year they only did the top 25 hosts, like back in 95 and 96. That was their first year. And I've been watching this list for a long time. And I think in 2010, I was named one of the top 250 talkers in the country. And now, though, this year, pretty great year, 2025, baby, Sam Bushman named one of the top 100 talk show hosts. Now I'm like number 98 on the list, so it's not like I'm super important or anything, but it's kind of like when you are an American Idol and you make the top 20. Your headline that you can use is, hey, I was one of the top 20 contestants. I made the top 20 on American Idol. You don't go, oh, I was number 19 or whatever. So I'm not here to act like I'm super important, except to me it's a great recognition of the hard work put in is the whole reason that I spend time on it. I don't want to toot my own horn, blow my own whistle, or whatever you want to call it. But I do want to acknowledge Talkers Magazine and the hard work they do. Okay, 2025 Talkers, it's called the Heavy 100 is what they've nicknamed it. And the editors of Talkers Magazine, with input from industry leaders, present the 2025 most important 100 talk show hosts in America. It's a popular feature. They call it the Heavy 100. And anyway, they talk about it debuted in 96, da-da-da. Now, the interesting thing is they say this: the criteria used to determine the individual broadcasters included in the list are clearly detailed in a disclaimer posted at the beginning of the feature on Talkers Magazine. But according to Talkers VP Executive Editor, a guy by the name of Kevin Casey, in addition to the standard 11 factors considered, and they include this in alphabetical order. This is kind of interesting: courage, effort, impact, longevity, potential, ratings, recognition, revenue, service, talent, and uniqueness. the editors strongly considered the quality of entrepreneurship for 2025, which is kind of unique because it's become increasingly important as the industry hurdles, they say, into the digital era and faces emerging challenges, which require an expanded set of business skills and layers of, they would call it emotional fortitude. Amen to that. Anyway, Casey continues and says a number of this year's inductees have put their money where their mouth is and own their own stations or networks or syndication businesses or the like. And anyway, it's a great honor to be part of it. I, in shout out on social media, did a little shout out to talkers and to everybody involved. Here's my little tidbit. I've got great news. Michael Harrison and the folks over at talkers.com, that's Talkers Magazine, put out their 2025 Heavy 100 list. That's the most important 100 talk show hosts in the nation. I'm delighted to report that I made the list this year, and I'd like to congratulate the other 99 that are with me. This year it was unique because they focused on some specific things about putting your money where your mouth is. Ownership in the media. Many of us own radio networks or radio stations or have a company that relates to the new media taking center stage. Just great stuff. Congratulations to us all. Just want you to know that this was brought to you by guestbooker.com and also by the C. Crane Radio Company, C. Crane Company. They sponsored this list. So congratulations to everyone. I'm delighted to be. New media is indeed taking center stage. Anyway, so I wanted to mention it because I think it's pretty cool that I made the Heavy 100. It's great news. And, what's interesting to me is I look at the list. It starts out with like Sean Hannity and Dave Ramsey. I mean, these people come from, multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar corporations or whatever you want to call it and big money. Hey, I've made the list just due to sheer hard work and sheer grit, folks. I haven't had big money poured into anything I've ever done. Ever. And so, it's bootstrap, whatever you want to call it. It's hard work. It's all the different attributes that they kind of mentioned there. I've got a lot of them. I've been in the business as long as anybody, 30 years, etc. Actually, I think it'll be literally 30 years since the time marker that I give when I bought a radio station. I've really been in the industry longer, but I've been a talk show host for almost 30 years now. And so that's very interesting. But I really bring this up to congratulate talkers.com because they used to be just a radio company. Now they're kind of a new media take center stage company. They're really realizing that podcasting is here to stay. What does radio really mean? And they're acknowledging all kinds of people that really make the industry fly. And they talk about ownership and grit and people that are really pioneering what the future of radio looks like. And, a lot of people would like to drop the radio term and use podcast. I get the different terms denote different realities, but you know what? It's kind of like your cell phone. Do you call it a phone or do you call it your YouTube video device? People watch more YouTube videos on their phones than they do make phone calls. Or is it just a texting device? That's kind of like how the morphing of radio has happened. It's been, what's radio? Well, do you listen to the radio? What if you go to libertyroundtable.com? and you click on Liberty News Radio or Loving Liberty Radio Networks, etc. Do you, how does that work? Do you call that radio? I mean, LibertyNewsRadio.com. The name says radio. It's an internet live stream. Is it radio? Again, we can play games with the terms factually. It's not the way the term was defined in the beginning, but terms change over time and terms have meaning. I mean, what's a podcast? That came from an iPod, right? Well, I mean, who has an iPod these days? Do you have an iPod, Liz? No, she doesn't have one. She's got a phone, though, and it's like an iPod next gen, just like it was phone next gen. So these words kind of morph. But anyway, I think Talkers Magazine, great group, great people doing a phenomenal job. Now, you would say, well, Sam, this is just your industry kind of, scratching each other's back and promoting yourselves, Sam. That's all that is. Well, you can say that about the Oscars or what are those other things they have, Liz? Oscars and Grammys and what are those other awards they have? They have a gazillion of them. Can you think of any others? Oscars, Grammys? Anyway, MCS awards or whatever they're called. I can't remember all of them. Anyway, Emmy awards, yeah, great. It's kind of like those guys, Are they just celebrating themselves? Well, pretty much. In a way, yes. I mean, I get that. At the same time, most people don't really realize that there's a heavy 100 talk show list in America of the top 100 talk hosts, right? Most people don't even realize that. And so in a way, it's an industry thing. But in a way, it's a way to reach out to the nation and say, hey, talk radio matters. And these are the people that are making a difference in a variety of ways. Anyway, I just want to shout out everybody involved. It's a pretty cool honor, pretty cool thing happening. And most importantly, it's shaping the industry of what the future of radio and podcasting and the new media taking center stage looks like, right? That's really the main reason that I bring it up. And it's delightful to join them, too. Just saying. All right, hang tight. Back in seconds. You are listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
Regrets? Oh, we're all gonna have them. Doesn't matter who you are or what you do. At some point, you're gonna wish you'd done something differently. You know, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But let me tell you a couple of things you'll never regret. You'll never regret spending extra time talking to your teenager. Trust me. You'll never regret answering your 3-year-old's question about where the water in the bathtub comes from. And I've never seen anyone wish they hadn't sat in the kitchen laughing with their children and telling them goofy stories about when they were kids. Yeah, sure, we're all gonna have regrets, but talking too much with our kids won't be one of them.
No matter what you talk about, love is what they'll hear. A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Visit us at Mormon.org.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Hard-hitting talk at your fingertips. I'm Sam Bushman. I've got Bryan Rust. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. FreeWaterCoinCo.com with me. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, thanks, Sam. Glad to be with you. Congratulations on being that part of that top 100. It's no doubt you should be there.
Well, thank you, sir. And what's interesting to me is there's a lot of people on there, and they're on from different huge markets like Phoenix or L.A. or New York or whatever. And then the other talk show hosts that are on there, big national hosts, you know, like a Sean Hannity or, you know, these kind of people funded by millions, perhaps billions of dollars and stuff like that. And I just feel like, man, I've never had any real money, Bryan. I'm not saying that no one's helped me. I'm grateful for all the, you know, support that I've received. People like you and others, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to dismiss that. I'm just saying it hasn't been big money. I'll tell you that right now. It's just been sheer grit, and it's been the people that I've been able to surround myself with. That's why it's called Liberty Roundtable, not the Sam Bushman Show, because it's all of you guys that deserve a lot of credit, too.
Well, you deserve it, Sam. You know, that's hard work and and so on, and I couldn't be happier for you. It's awesome.
Well, thank you, sir. All right, gold, where are we sitting?
Gold's $3,315.72.
All right, that hasn't really changed much, but it's staying well above the 3,000 mark. So maybe it hasn't changed a lot, but it's up quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's up quite a bit, down a little bit from yesterday or the last couple of days, but it does a little bit of that ups and downs, as it always will a little bit, because, you know, these forecasts, when we talk about the price of spot prices, are driven by paper on the exchange. So there's some of that goes on.
All right, silver?
36.58.
36.58. Man, that's holding pretty steady and good, and that's up quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, it's doing quite well, and the potential for that is strong and going to continue to rise, in my opinion.
All right, Donald Trump put a 50% tariff on steel or whatever, 55%, whatever it is. Now he's talking about a 50% on copper. Is that going to change things? What's copper looking like?
Yeah, we're starting to see a rise in copper, 13% surge increase yesterday, and it looks like if they continue to move on this trend, we could see $8 copper per pound, kind of a 60% gain. So yeah, that's what they're projecting.
That's crazy. Any other metals wildly changing?
Well, I think rhodium hasn't done a whole lot. Our friend Kurt.
Yeah, poor Kurt's garage full of rhodium's going south. Sorry, buddy. We still love you.
That's right. But he's got that liquid gold, though. That honey's always good.
Yes, and that honey, man's going up, too. But we don't want metals in our honey, just so people understand. Keep those separate.
Right.
Both of them, just don't mix them together, right?
That's right. You're correct.
It's kind of like the what is it like? You got chocolate in my peanut butter and stuff like that. And it's
that's right.
We don't want that kind of deal going on with the metals in the honey there. But anyway,
that's right.
So what's the relationship between gold and silver now? What to what?
It's just over 90 to 1. Yeah,
they've been able to hold that for so long. I'm expecting that number to go down slightly as silver kind of recognizes its reality. Is that going to happen, you think?
Yeah, I think that is the forecast for that, is silver to start gaining more strength. It should. Industry, takes about 60% of all silver off the market right off the bat, and we're not able to bring a lot of that back. They lose it in applications and so on. So, and not like gold where we can just melt it in the jewelry or other things like that. So yeah, we see an uptrend for that.
When these things get precious, things start to happen that move the needle even more. I mean, I remember in the day, the catalytic converter on your car or whatever, people would just literally go into your car and cut those suckers out and steal them while you're at the store or something like that in some of these big cities and everything, because some of the details now became so valuable and everything else, where you'd see, hey, people just literally taking down radio towers and stealing all the copper and stuff like that. Are we going to start seeing that kind of stuff with silver since it's in everything and the price is going up like that? I mean, I'm fearful that might become a trend.
Yeah, I think applications for some of those other things have changed, so that it's not as easy to steal that catalytic converter but you still hear stories of them pulling wire from poles and that, and I imagine same kind of thing with silver, applications that could be taken or stolen. Obviously, it doesn't seem like the thieves stopped doing their work, I should say, and maybe it's because it's accountability a little bit, and we don't really prosecute, and so it's like a slap on the hand. It's worth me going out and trying to steal somebody else's wealth.
Yeah, toss a couple of people in alligator Alcatraz over there, and pretty soon people will be like, no, I don't want to do that,
Right. I agree.
We had on yesterday this soundbite. I was with Lance Miliaccio and George Ballantine, and we had this Hispanic guy on from this Hispanic news service or whatever, and he was saying, yeah, the mosquitoes are as big as elephants, and it's freezing over here, and they just freeze us out in our tents in Alcatraz, and it's horrible. And I'm just thinking, how do you have mosquitoes as big as elephants when it's freezing? Something doesn't even make sense in that story for me,
It's a Jurassic Park type scenario.
Well, maybe they're genetically modified Bill Gates mosquitoes, and that's the problem. They don't care about the cold,
Right.
They're
there
just impervious to the cold and everything else. And anyway, weird stuff to say the least. So what do you think is going to happen here, economically speaking? We're Donald Trump launching tariffs against everybody. He says it's not going to affect things negatively. I just don't see how, unless he negotiates better deals quickly, or unless we start to see the IRS go away or something. Something's got to give.
Well,
yeah,
I agree, Sam. I think what's been going on is broken. The Fed is a mess and continues to be a mess, and they're basically, them wanting the interest rates to go up and come down, and just like numbers on a chart on a piece of paper. They're just saying, well, borrowing money when the government sets prices, chaos happens. So like all prices, they should be determined by free market, not government behind closed doors. So I don't know. True inflation seems to be coming more and more again, where they're going to give out free money again, per se. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of chaotic, but it's not a good thing. I don't think I think Trump's trying to make headway, and he is in a lot of ways. But unless both sides work together, it's still we're way under. We're in debt, major debt.
Well, and I'm hearing, Brian, and I it's hard for me to know if I hope this is true or not. I'll explain. They say that we're going to have the big, beautiful bill 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 coming up. And they say that these beautiful bills this time are supposed to really work on the Doge cutting and saving and reducing spending and everything else. And the reason that I say I'm not sure if I'm excited about that or not, if that's what it really does, I'm excited. I find that I hear that, and then I find out that, oh, man, it spends us into oblivion, or it does this, or, man, it sounds good on the surface, but what about that and that and that and the other? And are we going to look for a big, beautiful bill 2.0, 3.0, and will it really do what they promise, save us money or reduce spending? Do you think there's any hope there?
Well, I'm not so sure I like the wording of big, beautiful bill, because, so far these haven't been very good bills. And when it's a big cut, the problem is there's so much red tape in all these bills that it seems like, yeah, maybe we make a little headway, but we also step back 5 steps too, because what's in the bill said, well, we've allocated some money here. Well, we didn't need to do that, or here. Well, they wouldn't sign here if we couldn't do that for them there. So there's just a lot of things like that I don't trust. I mean, obviously they say, well, you can trust us. Well, we found out we can't, and the spending continues. I mean, wasn't there an article or something I read about Federal Reserve headquarters getting a big facelift, and they spent more than they should have on that, and we're already operating in a $77.6 billion loss in 2024. So I don't know. They just keep wanting to spend money for things they probably don't need, or it's reckless.
This is kind of interesting. The Epoch Times did a poll, Brian, and they called it the one big, beautiful bill. What's your take? The Epoch Times. And what's interesting about that is I filled out their survey, and they asked me questions like, what's the best thing in the bill you think? And I, said, hey, I believe some of the tax breaks are the best thing. What's the worst thing? And I said that just the out-of-control belligerent spending. And then they're like, are you for the bill overall, or are you against it? I said, I'm 100% against it. Okay, there's some good things in the bill. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's not. But it's 900-plus pages, Brian. It's almost 1,000 pages long. And I just think, first off, who read what they signed? Out of the 535 members of Congress and the President of the United States, who actually read the whole thing? And I don't know that anybody did. And even if you did read it, do you understand all the different reference, quote, changes that it really means? Meaning that if they say that we're going to change this section of this code to this, do you really understand the ramifications and the downstream effects of all those changes? So even if you read the bill, I'm not confident that you know what you're really agreeing to. But I'm convinced not a single person read the whole thing top to bottom. I mean, that's literally 3 huge novel equivalents. It's just wow. All right, Bryan Rust with me. We've got some pretty cool stuff coming up. Hang on, there's a war I want to tell you about. I want to get Brian's take on that war. And might we have the same war in our day? It would be a prayer, I'll tell you that. Wait a minute, Sam, you're never for war. In this case, I am. You'll get the details in seconds, and it's nonviolent. How do you like them apples? Bryan Rust, freewatercoinco.com, and yours truly continue with seconds on your radio.
Your daily Liberty News Wire. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. Nearly a week after deadly floods in Texas, scores of people are still believed to be missing. Search crews continue to scour miles along the Guadalupe River. In hard-hit Kerr County, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Baker says the well-being of first responders is a priority.
We process it the best we can. We have professionals in place, our crisis intervention team. All the agencies have some members representing there.
In southern New Mexico, crews are working to clear debris from streets and homes after monsoon rains triggered a flash flood in that state. A man and 2 children were killed when they were swept away earlier this week. It was another night of Russian drone and missile strikes against Ukraine.
President Zelensky said that Russia was stepping up its terror against Ukraine and the civilians, of course. We were woken up in the early hours of this morning by explosions. We could hear the screeching of drones and also the noise of the Ukrainian air defenses. Now, Russia launched about 400 attack drones last night and 18 missiles, and they were primarily targeted at the capital, Kiev.
That's the BBC's Charlotte Gallagher. Tariffs are getting personal for President Trump. He's singling out Brazil for import taxes of 50%, not for economic reasons, but because of Brazil's treatment of its former president, who is a friend of Trump's. During a closed-door interview with members of Congress, President Biden's White House physician invoked his rights under the Fifth Amendment and refused to answer questions about Biden's health while he was in office. The House Oversight Committee's chairman said Dr. Kevin O'Connor's refusal to testify makes it clear there was a conspiracy. Wall Street, the Dow is up 46. More at townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at CSPOA.org. That's CSPOA.org.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Over the last 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, 3 generations of the Rust family have been working to educate customers about precious metals. One of the most important things they've taught me is a little bit at a time over quite a bit of time makes the difference. You get a little bit of silver, a little bit of gold, a little chip at a time, a little bit at a time. Pretty soon you look at it and go, hey man, I got a pile. And then they also taught me to take possession of my metal. freewatercoinco.com is their website. Bryan Rust with me now. So this is an interesting thing. This is a special day in history, Brian. July the 10th, that's today, 1832, Andrew Jackson goes to war. Thisdayofhistory.com has the details. Jackson vetoed legislation to recharter the second bank of the United States. It's a pivotal moment in history, and I got a quick soundbite to play, then we'll talk about it. Here it is.
The biggest fight of Andrew Jackson's presidency was his battle against the Bank of the United States. In 1816, Congress had issued a charter creating the second bank of the United States. The bank's stockholders all came from the elite classes of the Northeast, and they were appointed, not elected.
The president of the bank was a Philadelphia aristocrat named Nicholas Biddle. And Jackson thought that Nicholas Biddle was operating the bank for the benefit of Nicholas Biddle and for his buddies.
Even though it was the sole repository for the federal government's deposits, the Bank of the United States remained a private institution. While paying out dividends to the government, it also made a profit for its stockholders.
They didn't just simply take the federal deposits and stick them away in a vault. They take those deposits and they loan them out. And they make money by loaning those deposits out. And so the bank is making very, very good money at this time period.
Jackson was the first American president to come from a poor background. Like many ordinary Americans, he hated the idea of a private bank run by a small number of wealthy stockholders.
Jackson wanted to get rid of it. And he said he was going to get rid of it. And whenever Jackson said he was going to do something, he usually ended up doing it, regardless of the opposition.
When the bank's charter came up for renewal in 1832, Jackson vetoed the bill, declaring that the bank was unauthorized by the Constitution, subversive of the rights of the states, and dangerous to the liberties of the people. With his re-election approaching, Jackson had staked his entire presidency on the issue of the bank.
And it was a triumph for Jackson. He was resoundingly re-elected. He was a very popular man. So the Bank of the United States knew that it was toast.
Once he was re-elected, Jackson took his revenge on the bank one step further. He decided to remove all of the federal government's deposits from the bank and place them in smaller local banks that he selected personally. His critics called them his pet banks.
In order to do that, he has to have the Secretary of the Treasury remove the deposits. The first Secretary of the Treasury he goes to, he says, I want you to remove the deposits. And this Secretary of the Treasury was a bank man and says, well, I'm sorry, President Jackson, I can't do that. He has this person moved to a different office. The second Secretary of the Treasury, a guy by the name of William Duane, comes into office. And Jackson says, well, Mr. Duane, I want you to remove the federal deposits. And Duane says, well, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I can't do that. And he summarily fires Duane. The third Secretary of the Treasury is Roger Taney, who's moved over from the Attorney General position. And Jackson says, Mr. Taney, I want you to remove the federal deposits. And Taney says, well, yes, Mr. President, I'm happy to remove those federal deposits. Now, Taney wins as a result of doing this. He ultimately becomes Chief Justice of the Supreme Court when John Marshall passes away.
Jackson's enemies in the Senate were so infuriated by what they considered Jackson's expansions of presidential power that they formed a new opposition party known as the Whigs. And with the death of the Bank of the United States came the end of an era of centralized control over America's monetary system. The following decades would be a time of laissez-faire as economic power moved away from the federal government and towards private businesses.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, that's Donald Trump's playbook. Ladies and gentlemen, history's supposed to repeat itself, Bryan Rust. And I'm saying, hey, Donald can do exactly that. This idea that Donald can't fire people, hey, go look at Andrew Jackson. Yes, he can. This idea that we need a central bank, no, we don't. The general government and the Constitution says no. And Andrew Jackson, president at the time, understood it. The bankers were toast, and the benefits was decentralization, and we went from government control to private sector business. Great, great news. Why doesn't Donald just take a page out of that playbook? Brian?
I like it, Sam. Well done on that.
I didn't do it. It's this day of history or whatever. They're the ones that get the credit for that little expose on it. They just explained it so well, and it had some kind of funny things in there. He fired somebody, pow, and it's kind of fun to listen to. But all I'm telling you is that's the power of radio, by the way. But I digress. I'm bringing this up because I saw this day in history, and I've known the story, but I just thought, what a great day to tell the story, and what an opportunity for Donald Trump right now to stand up and say, listen, people, we're changing the game right now. Now, Congress is trying to move towards a digital currency. Donald needs to stop that and stop the bankers at the same time. He could do Andrew Jackson squared right now if he really had the guts, Brian.
Yeah, if he could, just step up, and he's got a fight going on in so many other avenues. It'd be another fight, which he's, I think, gladly to take on. But you could see, if you look back at history, you can see how this is just the corruption over this period of time has gone because of those in power, those that have too much power, or even the majority of the stockholders then as foreign investors and perhaps allegiances to other governments, and the corruption that just would go on. And so, they appoint their own people, to kind of run it so that, they can kind of control it the way they want to control it. And so you could just see the corruption that's there. And we see a lot of this corruption now. I mean, it's as the party goes forward and says, well, you help me here and I'll help you here. And if you help me, I'll help you. And well, what about the people? Well, we don't care about, we know more than they know. They're not smart or whatever, but you see the corruption that goes on, and they're caught. There's no accountability, but it'd be nice to see some accountability because at that point it would stop.
Amen. And I think that this fight, as you put it, and I think that's true, it would be a fight. I mean, the headline that this day in history came up with it, in 1832, Andrew Jackson went to war. And you could say that's a little bit of a hyperbole statement, except for he went to war with the bankers, and he won. And the Secretary of State that did the bidding of Jackson and him became so popular. This guy became leader of the Supreme Court. Andrew Jackson was incredibly popular. So if you say to me, Sam, this issue won't fly, I 100% disagree with that. It will fly without a doubt. I mean, Andrew Jackson was so popular. The people want this. Trump needs to listen, in my mind, to good, honest people that actually care. Now, we just saw the Supreme Court pave the way for mass federal layoffs, the Epoch Times writes. In its lawsuit against the Trump administration, the American Federation of Government Employees said the planned reorganization of the federal government will lead to hundreds of thousands of federal employees to lose their jobs. But you know what? That's what needs to happen, Brian. We're bloated. All the other companies, you take Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, whoever, they all, I don't know if you want to call it culling the herd, but what they do is they basically say, hey, we've got to pivot. We don't need all these workers in this whatever. And they all lay off people. For example, Microsoft just slashed 9,000 jobs in the latest brutal cut. They call it amid an AI push. New York Post with that piece, but Microsoft had already slashed thousands of positions this year, and now they're focusing on cutting layers of management and shifting their resources towards AI because that's what they see the market doing. Well, the government hasn't had that latitude to say, hey, with AI, we can make our employees much more efficient. We can, with new computing and automation and da-da-da, we can do this and that. Government doesn't have that luxury. They're just, in the old school words, it's like, oh, we got to keep everybody. They're on their tenure, or they're on their this or that or whatever. It's got to stop. So Donald trying to stop it, and then they sue him, and they go to the court, and the court says, yes, Donald can lay people off. So Andrew Jackson was able to get rid of people and just fire them. So can Donald Trump. When we get back, Brian, I want you to respond to this, because this is an interesting phenomenon we're seeing. There's hope here on the horizon if Donald takes decisive, clear action. And, he may not be listening to me, I don't know, but I'm kind of a unofficial Trump advisor. Maybe I appointed myself, huh? Oh, man, could I appoint myself to that position? I just did. Hang tight. This is Liberty Roundtable Live.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
I believe there will come a time when we are all judged on whether or not we took a stand in defense of all life from the moment of conception until our last natural breath. As a teenager, I gave my first public speech in my church. My hand shook, my heart pounded. I thought to myself, I can't do this, but somehow I did, and because I wanted to talk about things that were important, I persisted. I chided my church as a senior in high school for not seeming to care about the not yet born, for looking the other way, and for not taking a stand on life. I will be in earnest. I will not equivocate, and I will not excuse. I will not retreat an inch, and I will be heard. One thing I promise you, I will always take a stand for life.
Companies usually pivot, ladies and gentlemen, and let people go as they pivot. That's wise to just kind of adjust, adapt to the economic realities, to et cetera, economic conditions, et cetera. Governments never do that, and so they just get bloated. Donald's sick of it, wants to just reduce. They sued him and said, no, you can't do that. Well, Donald won. Yes, he can. Andrew Jackson proved, yes, he can. This is a key solution, Brian, to the problems we face.
It is, Sam. And the interesting part is the uproar as far as Trump doing this and laying people off and so on, and they don't like it, and the media plays on it, and so they hammer him as well. You can't, and look what's happening, look what Trump's doing to all our country, and da 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 da. But they don't bring up the facts of like you just did. This is what business does, and it's okay for business to do this. And you might say or have a little headline that says, Microsoft laid off, or Google, or whoever, Walmart, whoever laid off, and a little blurb. But do you attack these companies for doing that? No, you don't. But because the president's starting to try to get control because of the extensive waste of spending and so on, boy, you don't like it, and boy, we're going to thrash him, and you can't do it, and they're going to just try to twist his hands all up. But it's kind of unfair justice, and he one more circus ring that he has to fight through to get to the next truth. But he has the right, and I hope he keeps fighting, because that's what we need.
Amen. And I find that interesting. Congress has even codified a lot of President Trump's executive orders in this big, beautiful bill. Not all of them, not in the way I would like to see, not near far enough. I get all that. I'm just telling you, a lot of what Donald has done has been now codified by Congress. The courts are now starting to agree I mean, it's literally a mandate from the people and now codified by all three branches of government. When are we just going to start getting it done? And I want to just see it happen. I don't want to hear talk about it anymore. I want to deliver. And I want to come back and say, hey, because of this, we can decrease these costs and we can decrease this expense and we can shut down and possibly sell this building and pay down the debt and we can do this and that and maybe we can balance the budget. We don't need an amendment to balance the budget. We got the First Amendment and I hardly have my right to speak, right? The Second Amendment, hey, you have a tough time keeping guns because they want to take your guns all day. Just because you make an amendment, that doesn't make it so. Okay, so we need to balance the budget. We don't need force an amendment to do it. We just need fiscal restraint. We just need honorable. Well, the issue is honesty, Brian.
Yeah, more and more of that we need, no doubt about it. I just think that I think if we look at time, everybody could use a little more time to do this, to do that. Well, I think that the left, if they can twist our president and take some of this time away, because now he's got to worry about this, and now he's in court going to this. They're just really tying him up with his time, and before we know it, are we getting? And I think we are making headway, but we hope that we're more supportive. I think the people are definitely behind him. If you look at the polls, obviously the media on the left, they don't want to show that. But if they're twisting him up, taking time away from it, and now he's no longer in office, we've wasted all this time to hear. I think that's their agenda, because then they think, well, now we can regain regain the strength that we need to just cancel all his agendas and move back to where we were, reckless abandon. I think that's probably more of their agenda. And so, but I like the fact that we are moving forward some.
Well, and I like some of the good things that are happening. So Trump can decrease employee count. They can start reducing expenses. I like to see that. Supreme Court clears the way for mass federal layoffs. I like that. I get the responsibilities and the benefits there and everything else. There's several things. For example, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis suggested that billionaire CEO Elon Musk should push for a, quote, balanced budget and congressional term limits amendments to the U.S. Constitution rather than launching a new political party. Now, I don't know that I agree with him on that, because I don't think we need more amendments to the Constitution. We just need the will to take action. But I bring it up because I think it's kind of interesting that, hey, people could say that Elon Musk is a clown, but he has enough money to make a third party, whether it becomes a real third party with longevity or not, or has enough influence to become a major party, is in question. But what's not in question is that he will certainly take a key constituency away from Trump. The young men, the independents, a lot of people that want to move to the center but have fiscal responsibility. And so this is a threat to be dealt with, and Ron DeSantis sees it. And so he's trying to put the olive branch forward to Elon Musk on this thing. Why do I bring this up? Because it directly relates to the budget, Brian. He's saying, hey, if your concern is this, then put a balanced budget amendment there or whatever. He also talks about congressional term limits. I think we already have term limits. Every 2 years we can vote those clowns out in the House, and every 6 years the Senate. So we already have term limits if we just take action. But it requires responsibility from we the people. And our founders said, hey, you know what? You've got to be anxiously engaged. You've got to be a religious and a moral people. And, hey, you can't be ignorant and free. You got to be involved. And so we cannot ignore our responsibility. But the reason I bring this up is because he's talking directly about the budget. I don't think we need a balanced budget amendment. We just need the will to do it. And if those people won't do it, fire them, Brian. I mean, Donald Trump's "you're fired" comes to mind, right?
That's right. Yeah, amen. I agree with you. It's, getting it done and making it happen. I mean, talk is cheap, but I think and I think he's trying to accomplish some of this, but it seems like, from various sides, there's no doubt about he's being attacked. And I find it interesting that, wrong is right still, and right's wrong. I mean, sorry, and I'm digressing here, but I'd hate to be an ICE agent right now in this country. Seems like that role is looking very good. So, I mean, there's just all these things that are going on, and like you say, it needs to take action. If these people are going to, do what they're doing, let's round them up and get them, put them away in a sense, and let them have some accountability for what they're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me, Brian. Talk is cheap. I agree. But when it comes to the government, it seems like an exception to everything. Talk in government is really expensive. I watch the debt go up and up and up while these suckers are talking. Let's take action and, make sure that talk's not so dang expensive in the government realm. Anyway, I find that interesting. Final tidbit before the end of the hour that I want to brief you on or get your thoughts on. Did you know, Brian, that banks don't need your permission to legally seize your deposits?
Yeah, there is that on the books. If you read, make sure you read the fine print. Great.
And what people will say is, Sam, that's not totally true. It needs context. Okay, the context is, you just can't have a banker Larry over there take it for his own personal benefit, et cetera. I mean, that's all true. However, if there's a declared emergency, if there's a justification or a legal need, or the bank goes under, or any of these different things, then legally they can take your deposit. So, I mean, it's in effect true. Now, there's some parameters to where, hey, it can't just be done by the whim of an individual or whatever, but it can legally be done. And because you agree to give them your money, they own your money now. You just own a claim against that money, legally speaking. And that's where, hey, so we got to be very careful with this right now when we're in such dire straits when it comes to debt. And everything we can do that would improve our credit rating and decrease our debt would decrease the likelihood that this actually happens to individuals and families. But whether it's your 401k, whether it's your deposits in the bank, hey, they can legally take that stuff, Brian. I don't know if people really realize that truth. However, if you have your constitutional currency in your basement, buddy, unless they come to your house and, take it, well, that's a lot harder to take, right?
Yeah, but that's what I was going to just say, that precious metals aren't liabilities. They aren't dependent on central banks' decisions, vulnerable to a printing press. Gold and silver has served as money for thousands of years. They still will. So, instead of putting your money where it may, perhaps in a campfire of fiat dollars, we might want to look into gold and silver and put some of that away where you have it physically in your own hands.
Some people that I talk to bring this up and they say, yeah, but the government will just confiscate it, Brian. They did that before. They could do it again. What do you say to that?
Civil war.
And we don't want it again. That's right.
Well, we don't want it again.
My response to that is this. They can confiscate it, but I can also bury it and not have it too.
Yeah, that's right. You can put it away. You can. I mean, it's the key is I think the push. I think if people get pushed, okay, you're taxing me, you're taking my money, and I'm paying my taxes, but that seems to keep growing, and that you're not stopping your spending. I just keep paying into that debt. But I think people are pushed to the wall, and then they just say, I'm done. Now you're going to come and take my guns. Now you're going to come and take my metal. Now what? You want my home, my property, everything. Finally, we're done, and that's when you see civil war. People start stepping up, saying, "I'm fighting. Now I'm done." So, and I think that's what would happen. I believe you'd have chaotic. Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
And we're against that 100%. We advocate for the Prince of Peace. And so we're not suggesting we want this. We're just merely telling you that's what we believe the results will be if the government gets to that kind of tyrannical level. We need to be really careful, though, man. Congress and behind the scenes, they're really advancing a digital currency. And the digital currency is of great concern because that puts the government in super central control, Brian.
Yeah, it does. I think that the world, there are countries already using digital. And we're using some, you have, some of these payment plan type things that you can use on a card or whatever, but it's headed. I mean, they're trying to get in line as well.
Well, Brian, at least you don't have to remove your shoes at the airport now, buddy. You heard that,
Sam.
Right?
I did.
Yeah, Kristen Ohm. She says, hey, you can keep your shoes on, buddy. So Mr. Bryan Rust with his loafers at the airport. I'm just kidding. No, you can keep on your shoes, buddy. That's good.
I love it. There you go.
Now you don't have to bring slip-ons to the airport. You can wear whatever you want, buddy. You're free. Yep. We got to keep pushing for freedoms like that's what I say. Thank you, Brian.
You bet. Thanks, Sam. Great job.
Bryan Rust, everybody. FreeWaterCoinCo.com. I'm telling you right now, you've got a partner when it comes to hedging your bets against fake money. Honest money. Don't you dig it? God save our republic.